The wilderness has rules. If you break them, it does not forgive. But sometimes you don't have to break the rules to vanish. Today, we examine two of the most disturbing mysteries in history. First, the NAHANNI Valley in Canada, a place known as the Valley of Headless Men, where prospectors were found, without their heads. And then, to the Khamar Daban in Russia, where 6 experienced hikers died in minutes, bleeding from their eyes. Two landscapes, two horrors. Who is waiting outside the tent?
A sharp crack splits the night, like a frozen branch snapping under immense weight. Inside a small canvas tent, a single lantern casts long dancing shadows against the thin walls. Rain drums a relentless, maddening rhythm on the fabric. A newspaper headline slides into view, the text stark and brutal. They found the bodies, but the heads were gone. A weathered wooden sign nailed to a tree reads, "Keep out." A flash of a human skull, bleached white against dark earth. A rescue helicopter, its blades whipping the air, turns and retreats into a gray, unforgiving sky. Why have 27 people lost their heads in the same 11,000 square mile patch of wilderness? And why is the government staying silent? The valley's dark reputation was cemented in the early 20th century, earning it names like the Headless Valley, the Valley of the Headless Men. These are not names given lightly. They were born from a series of shocking discoveries that began to paint a terrifying picture of the region. The first widely reported incident involved 2 prospectors who went searching for gold and found only horror. Their story became a chilling headline, the first of many linking the NAHANNI to a grisly pattern of death. The year was 1908. 2 brothers, Willie and Frank McLeod Hardy, experienced outdoorsmen. They ventured into the valley with dreams of striking it rich. They established a camp and searched a tributary they named Flat River. Sometime later, another prospecting party came upon the camp, led by Charlie Fail. It was ominously quiet. They found the brothers' bodies, but their heads were gone. Their gear was largely untouched. The scene was eerily still. No signs of a struggle or an animal attack that could explain the clean decapitations. The discovery sent a shockwave through small northern communities. The Royal Northwest Mounted Police investigated, but the vastness and lack of evidence left few answers. The case went cold, but the story grew, whispered in taverns, around campfires. The McLeod brothers became the valley's first named victims. Their fate served as a grim warning, but the lure of gold brought others, and the pattern, tragically, repeated. Over decades, the list of the headless dead grew. In 1917, Swiss prospector Martin Jorgensen was found, his cabin burned to the ground, his skeleton nearby, headless. The story of the McLeod brothers was not an isolated incident. It was the beginning of a grim and repeating chapter in the valley's history. After their bodies were found in 1908, the quiet fear crystallized into a specific dread. People began to refer to the area around the Flat River as Headless Creek. The name stuck, a permanent marker on a map of fear. The curse, as it came to be known, was not just a story of missing prospectors. It was a tale defined by the specific and brutal signature left at each scene. A body without a head, a mystery without a clue. Following the McLeods, other brave or foolish souls tested their luck. The reports, while sometimes separated by years, share unsettling similarities. In the years after Jorgensen's death in 1917, other trappers and miners simply vanished. Sometimes their camps were found abandoned, with food still on the fire. In other instances, bodies were eventually located, but the crucial part was always missing. The official explanations often cited animal predation or the natural decomposition process in a harsh environment. Yet, this explanation rarely fit the evidence on the ground. The problem with the animal theory is the state of the bodies themselves. In many documented cases, the victims were found fully clothed in their sleeping bags near their campsites. There were no signs of a mauling, no torn flesh, no scattered bones that would indicate a frenzied bear or wolf attack. The decapitations were described in some unofficial reports as being strangely clean. This detail, more than any other, fueled speculation that the cause was not natural. It suggested an agent capable of a precise surgical act, far removed from the chaotic violence of a wild animal. The ticking sound of the mystery grew louder with each new, inexplicable case. This pattern of headless bodies found in a relatively concentrated area over decades is what makes the Nahanni enigma so compelling and unique. Beyond the physical danger, there is another, more subtle phenomenon reported by those who have entered the Nahanni Valley. A strange distortion of perception known as the Oz factor. The term was coined by ufologist Jenny Randles to describe the peculiar sensation of being isolated from the outside world, as if one has stepped into a bubble where the normal rules of reality no longer apply. Visitors to Nahanni have described this feeling with unnerving consistency. They speak of a sudden, oppressive silence descending upon the landscape. Even the birds go quiet. Insects go quiet. Time itself feels distorted, slowing down or speeding up unpredictably. This is not simply being alone in the wilderness. Experienced hikers report it. Search and rescue personnel report it. They describe a muted, dreamlike quality to the air. Colors seem slightly off. Sounds are muffled. Electronic equipment is notoriously unreliable here. Compasses spin erratically. GPS units fail to acquire a signal. Radios crackle with static, then fall completely silent. This technological blackout amplifies the psychological stress on anyone deep in the valley. Eyewitness accounts brim with these sensory details. One survivor described his team walking in a line, then an inexplicable wave of dread washed over them simultaneously. They stopped, looked at one another, and knew without speaking they were being watched. A geologist in the 1960s reported losing 3 hours of daylight. His watch read 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but the sun was setting as if it were 5. Skeptics dismiss such anecdotes, but their frequency and similarity suggest a real environmental or psychological phenomenon inside the valley. The Oz factor is a critical piece of the Nahanni puzzle. It suggests the threat may not be purely physical. It can affect the mind, disorienting and incapacitating victims before physical harm occurs. The environment seems to conspire against intruders. Woven into the fabric of the Nahanni mystery are local legends, ancient stories passed down through generations of the Dean people. These tales speak of mythical creatures, spirits that inhabit the valley, and among the most feared is the Wahila. The Wahila is not an ordinary wolf. It is described as a massive, white wolf, often said to be larger than a bear, that hunts alone in small, silent packs. Unlike normal wolves, which are typically shy of humans, the Wahila is said to be a phantom of the forest, a cunning and malevolent hunter that stalks human prey with terrifying intelligence. According to the lore, the Wahila is a spirit of the land, a guardian that does not tolerate trespassers. The descriptions from supposed sightings are chillingly consistent. Witnesses speak of a huge, solitary wolf with a broad head and a powerful build, moving with an unnatural silence through the dense undergrowth. It is said to have an eerie, almost human-like intelligence in its eyes. Cryptozoologists, some researchers, have speculated that the Wahila could be a relict population of a prehistoric species, such as the dire wolf, a bear dog like Amphision, somehow surviving in the isolated ecosystem of the Nahanni. The connection to the headless body's mystery is direct and disturbing. Some versions of the Wahila legend claim that this creature has a specific and gruesome hunting method. It decapitates its victims. The stories allege that it attacks with such speed and precision that it can sever a head with a single bite or swipe of its powerful jaws, leaving the rest of the body largely untouched. This aligns with the strange cleanliness of the wounds reported in some of the headless cases, providing a potential, albeit terrifying, explanation for the signature of the Nahanni deaths. The legend of the Waheela offers a narrative where the perpetrator is not human, but a creature of immense power and ancient malice. While mainstream science dismisses the Waheela as folklore, the persistence of the stories and the occasional strange tracks found in the region keep the legend alive. Among the many strange cases connected to the Nahanni Valley, the death of John O'Brien stands out for its sheer impossibility. O'Brien was a trapper who knew the northern wilderness well. In the winter of 1965, he was working his trap lines near the edge of the valley when he vanished. When he failed to check in, a search party was sent to find him. What they discovered defies all known understanding of how a human body freezes. It was a scene so bizarre that those who witnessed it were reluctant to speak of it for years, and the official report offers no satisfactory explanation for what they saw. The search party found O'Brien's body near his camp. He was frozen solid, which is not unusual for someone who succumbs to the elements in the far north. What was deeply unsettling was his posture. He was found kneeling, leaning forward over a small, freshly made fire. His hands were cupped around a matchbook, with one match struck and held just above the kindling, as if he had been flash frozen in the very act of lighting the fire. His eyes were wide open, and his face was locked in an expression of shock or terror. The scene was perfectly preserved, a tableau of a man's last, desperate moment. The details of the scene only deepen the mystery. The fire had not caught. The match had apparently extinguished an instant after it was struck. There were no tracks around O'Brien's body, other than his own. There were no signs of a struggle, no wounds, no indication that any animal or person had been near him. It was as if time itself had simply stopped for him. The men who found him described the air around the body as feeling unnaturally cold, even for a winter day. They felt an overwhelming urge to leave, a palpable sense of wrongness that they could not articulate. The Nahanni Valley remains a place of profound mystery. The ticking clock of its secrets continues, marked by each passing year of silence from official sources, and each new story that filters out of the mists. The headless bodies, the Oz factor, the legends of the Waheela, and the impossible death of John O'Brien are threads in a single dark tapestry, a puzzle where many pieces are still missing. This is not a place for the careless or the arrogant. It is a land that demands respect and rewards hubris with silence and shadow. To enter the Nahanni is to accept you are stepping into a place where you are not in control. The government's silence on these cases is itself part of the mystery. Some files are available, thin, redacted, inconclusive. Deliberate cover-up to prevent panic or protect a dark secret? Or bureaucratic indifference and investigative difficulty? The lack of clear answers fuels speculation and fear. It leaves the door open for every theory, from the mundane to the monstrous. Be warned, be watchful, and never stop asking why the heads were gone.
The headless bodies of Nahanni Valley remain a mystery. But thousands of miles away, in the frozen peaks of Russia, something even stranger occurred. An incident that makes the Dyatlov Pass look merciful. This is the Khamar Daban incident. They found her by the river. She came out of the trees like a ghost. For a moment, she just stood there, a thin shape against the Siberian forest. A group of kayakers at the base of the Khamar Daban saw her first. They stopped and called out to her. She did not move. She simply stared, eyes wide and empty. As their boats drifted nearer, the image sharpened into a horror. The girl was covered in blood, smeared across her face, matted in her hair. Her clothes were torn, offering little warmth against the August chill. Her name was Valentina Utochenko. She was 17. Behind her, up on the unforgiving slopes of Retranslator, 6 bodies lay scattered in the wilderness, partially undressed, in freezing air, their skin blue. There were signs of convulsions, a struggle against something unseen. Blood had streamed from their eyes, their ears, their mouths. The scene was a silent tableau of a swift, violent end. Shock rolled through the small communities below. People called it Buryatia's Dyatlov Pass, an echo of another baffling tragedy. Official reports would come later, neat conclusions in sterile language. But for those who saw the girl, and those who saw the aftermath, the truth felt colder, stranger, more terrifying. The group was not made of amateurs. A tight-knit circle from a hiking club in Petropavlovsk, Kazakhstan. They trained together. They trusted each other. Their leader was Lyudmila Korovina, 41, a survivalist of formidable reputation. Among her students, she was simply known as Master. Nothing left to chance. Routes mapped, gear checked, weather read. They set out with spirits high. The Siberian summer can be beautiful. They followed the Snezhnaya, moving as one body through the green sea. They shared meals, sang under the stars, and grew tighter as a unit. They knew the risks. Every hiker does. But the danger they met wasn't on any map. The change came on August 4. A relentless downpour drained the warmth from the air. Wind rose. Temperature plummeted. The mountain showed its teeth. Korovina decided, make camp, just below Retranslator summit. They couldn't light a fire. No warmth that night. The wind roared, rain hammered, cold seeped into bone. They were soaked, shivering, but not yet afraid. The mountain turned prison. Minutes became victories. They didn't know the real storm was about to begin, inside their bodies. August 5 brought no relief. Exhausted, they began to descend. It started with Alexander, the oldest student. His eyes rolled back. Blood foamed, a horrifying pink froth. He clawed at his throat, convulsed, screamed, and within minutes was dead. Korovina rushed to help, then struggled to breathe. According to Valentina, she said one word, heart. Then she fell. The master was down. The group, leaderless and terrified. Madness began to move through the remaining hikers. The horror escalated with terrifying speed. She stripped as if on fire. Dennis beat his head against a boulder, again and again. Others writhed, bodies seized by some unbearable agony. These were her friends, minutes ago a team, now strangers to themselves, bleeding from eyes, ears, foaming at the mouth. As if their minds had been erased, leaving only impulses to fight, flee, destroy. Paradoxical undressing can occur in severe hypothermia, but hypothermia is slow. This was an explosion. One ran. Another's heart gave out. One by one, they fell. Years later, Valentina's words came as brutal, broken snapshots. Then, there was only silence. In the silence, there was only the wind. Valentina was alone. Her friends, her teacher, were dead. Survival broke through terror. She had to get down the mountain. No map, no compass, no gear, only motion. For days she wandered, drank from streams, slept in tree hollows. The nights were worst, their last moments replaying on a loop. After 5 days, she saw it, the Snezhnaya. People. For a moment, she must have thought it a hallucination. They saw her too. Her strength finally gave out. She had carried the mountain story out of the wilderness. Her ordeal was over. The mystery had just begun. Authorities launched a recovery. Rescuers reached the site she described. 6 bodies, torn tent, abandoned packs. The autopsy report concluded 5 died of hypothermia. Krisin, Filipenko, Shvachkin, Zelisova, Bapanov, Korovina, heart attack. All had bruised lungs, pulmonary edema. Case closed. A tragic storm. Skilled hikers. Bad luck. But the official story felt thin. Hypothermia is a quiet killer. It doesn't explain bleeding, violent convulsions, synchronized collapse. It doesn't explain beating one's head against stone. The gap between paper and witness was a chasm of doubt. In the vacuum, other theories grew. One word: Novichok, a family of secret nerve agents, developed up to 1993. Valentina's account was chillingly consistent with nerve agent poisoning. A drifting, invisible cloud could explain speed, violence, and synchronicity. Why one survived if she stood just outside the plume. Critics ask, why test a secret weapon in a popular area during peak season? Another theory: infrasound, wind and terrain birthing panic and dread. A silent weapon of the mountain, Terrifying, but it doesn't explain bleeding and froth. Toxic ingestion, hallucinogenic mushrooms, contaminated water. The timeline and tox screens undercut a neat answer. Each theory explains a piece. None explains it all. Today, the range remains what it has always been, beautiful and silent. The winds still scour the peaks. The fog still swallows the valleys. The story of Korovina and her students is part lore, part wound. Valentina survived, but carried the mountain with her. Her fractured sentences hold more horror than answers. Files are closed. Questions linger, as persistent as the Siberian wind. Freak of nature, a secret test gone wrong, or something older, an unforgiving force that doesn't tolerate trespass? We are left with fragments, a girl by a river, bodies on a slope, a report that explains nothing. We search for patterns, compare it to Dyatlov, beg for a unifying theory, but some places resist explanation. They hold their secrets tight. The Khamar Daban incident stands as a stark reminder of that thin, blurred line between the natural and the unnatural. What did she really see on that mountain?